Last Sunday we raised the question, how should we then live since God is righteous? For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. For in it, in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith for faith, from the beginning of salvation to the very end, from start to finish. As it is written, and last week we were in Habakkuk where Paul takes this quote, "The righteous shall live by faith." And faith has an object. It's in the finished work of Jesus Christ. But today, I want to raise the next question because we are moving into the section from verses 18 all the way through chapter 2, verse 2. I want to raise this question. Why? Why should we live by faith in the work of Christ? And the answer is this, and I'll show you in the text. But we want to answer it like this. Because God's wrath falls on those who don't live by faith in the work of Christ. I want to show you in verse 18 and then in chapter 2, verse 2. So the righteous shall live by faith, or because. So why should the righteous live by faith? Because the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. Look down at chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. Paul has come to a conclusion and he wants to wrap this one particular argument up. Therefore, you have no excuse, O man, every one of you who judges. For in passing judgment on another, you condemn yourself because you, the judge, practice the very same things. We know that the judgment of God, and that's verse 18, because the wrath of God, we know that the judgment of God rightly falls. It's coming down. It falls on those who practice such things. But the point is, at least for now, why should we live by faith in the work of Christ? Verse 17, the answer is verse 18, because the wrath of God is falling down. It's coming down. It is, I don't mean to make a jab at the NIV, but, well, the NIV does not have the word for. Right there in verse 18. It just begins verse 18 with the wrath of God. And I want to say that that is absolutely inexcusable. Out of all the blunders that a translation committee has ever done, this has got to be one of the worst. And the reason why is because that little word that's translated for means because has everything to do why we are to live by faith. And I'm going to illustrate how important that word for is. I'll use an umbrella. Imagine you're at the base of a volcano that is erupting and pouring hot lava out and heavy stones. And the only way you're going to survive is with the only thing that's made that can survive that is an asbestos umbrella. That little word for functions like this. The righteous will live by faith in the objective work of Jesus Christ, because the wrath of God is falling down, and it's the only way you'll survive. That's the meaning of that word for. The righteous they have to live by faith in the finished work of Jesus Christ, because God's wrath is falling down on all of mankind, and this is the only way you're going to survive. That's how important that little word is. So, when we come to the Lord's table, we are acknowledging that it's because of the finished work of Jesus Christ. He shed His blood. And when Jesus gave us the gift of coming to His table, and as He taught, do this in remembrance of me. In other words, we are proclaiming the gospel to our hearts and to our heads, to our lives, that the righteous must live by faith in the finished work of Jesus Christ. Why? Why must we live by faith in the objective life of Jesus Christ, His shed blood, His burial, His resurrection? Why? Because God's wrath is falling down. You don't want God's wrath to fall down on you, do you? Okay, then live by faith in the finished work of Jesus Christ. That's how beautiful that little word "for" is. So if you've got an NIV, get your pen out and write in the word "for" right in front of it. Or better yet, because in the book of Romans, these little words are so critical. There are no throwaway words from the Holy Spirit. So as we come to the Lord's table, men, if you'll join me, those of you who are going to serve our church family, we want to pause and give thanks for the only umbrella, the only shield, the only righteousness that can spare you from God's wrath. So men, if you'll go ahead and come forward and take your seats here on the front bench.